that we have everyone here who will be joining us for this week's Midweek with Max. I'd like to say hello to everyone. My name is Jeremy Nation. I'm filling in for Rick, who's on hopefully the best vacation of his life. I'm sure he'll be able to fill you in on that when he comes back tomorrow. We will have a great show for you, though, today. We're joined by Phil, who's come back from his magical journey across the world to the wonderful streets of the wonderful streets of Chicago. Yes. And we have Max, of course, and we're also joined by OneDelta. So OneDelta is one of the greatest partners that we've got out there. We've done several events with them in the past, and now we're able to kind of plow forward and ask them some questions about their project. Aktar, I don't think that's your name. How do you...
Yeah, are we pronouncing your name correctly, sir?
Sorry, I was briefly interrupted. Aktar is how you pronounce it, I guess.
Aktar. Great.
Yeah, my original name is easily unpronounceable or as unpronounceable as this one, so I don't think it makes that big of a difference.
All right. Well, as understanding what OneDelta is all about is understandable, then that's fine. Let's just dig right into here. What does your project do with Hemi?
All right, so our protocol bundles a handful of things at once. So what we are mainly building is a primary access gateway to DeFi and really make DeFi more usable for the everyday user. This is not having only the hardcore DeFi users in mind, but we also want to build it in a way so that the more beginner users also have an easier way to access protocols that are not covered by the most common projects. And what we do is that we build certain types of aggregations across all domains. One of them is a DEX meta aggregator. So that is basically a routing optimizer for DEX pools that we have as an in-house solution. That is one part. But if you've used our app, you also see that we do not only include our own routing, we also include all other aggregators that we can find, including, for instance, on Hemi specifically, the SushiSwap. But as you might have seen yourself, if you try to trade a handful of those BTC LSTs, you do not really find many of them on SushiSwap. You have to go to Izumi, for instance, but we also got all of those covered. So we generally try to fill in the gap where we see that there is some price performance missing. So the DEX aggregation is one part. The second part is the bridge aggregation itself. So we all know that bridging to any sort of chain can be very challenging, specifically when it's one of the more recent projects. And what we try to do is also making the entryway to a chain like Hemi as easy as possible. And for that, we also picked up all major bridges that bridge to Hemi. So if you want to bridge your funds from essentially any chain to Hemi, OneDelta is a good gateway for that. And then lastly, we have a yield farming and margin product where you can, obviously you can regularly use the lending protocols that are on Hemi as you would do on their own websites. But on top of that, you have also the ability to maximize your yields via automated looping strategies that are currently covered on Lendos and ZeroLend. So if you try to farm some points there, you can directly do that on OneDelta as well. And we build it in a way that there is no intermediary smart contract in your way. So you actually hold all of this in your own EOA, meaning that positions built on OneDelta are equivalent to positions built on ZeroLend's homepage or on Lendos' homepage. So in the end, you always hold the ownership of the yield positions. And also, we're, of course, trying to expand our offering. So whenever a new project is going to launch, we always keep in mind that, or we always do a screening as to whether it makes sense for us to pick it up. So interesting for us, for instance, is any sort of lending, also more generalized yield farming probably in the future. And as well as, of course, if anyone tries to launch some sort of DEX then we're also always happy to talk to them to talk about an integration.
Great to see that abstraction of complexity with yield strategies so that you can loop them. I'd love to see that kind of stuff. What was it that motivated OneDelta to expand into Hemi's universe?
We generally believe that BTC is, we're not alone in that belief, obviously, but we see that BTC has, BTC is one of the more stable assets and the backbone of crypto itself. And obviously, what is out there is that there's a lot of BTC that doesn't have a great utility, since lots of centralized exchanges have some more or less in transparent ways of how they provide yields to users. And we believe that a platform that really puts together the benefits of Bitcoin and the Ethereum ecosystem with having an EVM is the best way to actually pivot to this kind of architecture where you can really allow users to generate yields and generate income on their BTC and still maintain their full autonomy without actually trusting some centralized exchange on producing those yields. And Hemi itself is not really like or it's not like any of those one-to-one EVM forks. We really see that there's a much deeper integration with Bitcoin itself than compared to other projects of that kind.
Great observations and solid motivations. What is the one thing that you'd like the audience members here to do right after this call?
In general, I motivate anyone to get your assets to Hemi and get them to work there. So there's lots of options. On ZeroLend, for instance, you can deposit all sorts of LSTs. You can try out with finding some interesting combinations of all sorts of the assets. So I think what is covered there is BRBTC, UniBTC, Hemi BTC, of course. You have Wrap BTC. You basically have a really large chunk, and a decent amount is also covered by deep swap liquidity through Izumi, and I think also Oku has some decent liquidity. There's also interesting things, I think, in the cooking on the side of Lairbank, but I will not spoil anything on that end. So there's lots of exciting stuff coming up where more and more of those assets get supported. But in the end, it's always interesting to see what kind of assets are available and where can you maximize your yield with those assets. And I think if you just visit,
No, go on, please.
Yeah, so if you go to our page, you will find at least for instance, if you go to the market side, you find this on the left-hand side in our tabs. You find an overview of basically all assets that you have on Hemi. So it's just an overview of all the assets that are tradable in swap pools, have some trade history. So if you look at those, you know which assets you can swap to, and also most importantly, swap back in case you decide to opt out. And there you have a great overview if you want to just swap or find an asset that is interesting, or want to just explore what the ecosystem has to offer token wise. And on the margin page, you can discover the explicit yield options that ties together several types of Bitcoin LSTs.
All right. Well, you heard it here. Get your assets to Hemi, and OneDelta has the comprehensive dashboard to help you leverage the most of what Hemi has to offer. Thank you so much for joining us and letting us know about OneDelta's amazing services and protocol. Phil, thank you for joining us today from your amazing journey. What have you in the way of marketing updates for us?
Wow, when you deliver that entreaty in such dulcet tones. So back in the saddle full time, you saw that, as a lot of you know, I was navigating a trans-hemispheric move. I am now here in the Mad Attic in Chicago, as we call it. It's my office here. And so you saw what we did at Permissionless. I'm still, that was 2 weeks ago, and I'm still getting a lot of inbound from it. Because we had basically taken over the visual branding of the conference, and we were like a third-tier sponsor. So we got a lot of bang for our buck in terms of the fact that even if you were a notional competitor of Hemi, you still had to wear our logo around your neck, which was which was actually great, and a lot of people pointed that out. Jeff did great on the panel on where to build on the Bitcoin network that was hosted by the Bitcoin historian himself, Pete Rizzo. And then he also participated in Pete Rizzo's podcast, Supply Shock, which is available in the Blockworks family of podcasts, blockworks.co. He also sat down, Jeff, that is, also sat down for an interview with The Defiant, which I expect to come out fairly soon, an interview with Camila Russo, and some other press that we expect to trickle out over the next weeks. On other fronts, we've got the some additional research reports coming out, one of which is going to be from our good friends at Reflexivity. That's a report that some of you know goes out to their 60,000 some odd subscribers, as well as the people who subscribe to CoinMarketCap's newsletter, which is around 1 to 1.1 million. So the Hemi message is getting out there as well. Continuing to rocket on the business development front. I'm going to thank Aktar again from OneDelta for joining us here. That activity continues to be robust, and what we found is that the tipping point, the part where the snowball started to turn into an avalanche, it's looking like that was Token 2049 in Dubai. That really seemed to be the point where people started to come to us and say, "Wow, I heard about Hemi. Tell me what you guys are doing." Really starting to pick up what we're putting down. Really starting to understand, how we approach Bitcoin and Bitcoin DeFi differently than other folks. And that was further enunciated, further underscored by our presence at Permissionless. So we're looking at the conference calendar throughout the end of the year and doing some second half of 2025 planning. But really happy with the momentum and really happy with the developments. And I'm thrilled to be rejoining the Amigos after a perhaps an extended quasi absence. So back to you, Jeremy.
A wonderful update, and we're certainly glad to have you back here in the saddle full time. We've got a lot of amazing stuff happening in the ecosystem in terms of partners and different protocols launching on Hemi. So it's great to get these updates. Now, on the engineering end, Max has been working his fingers to the bone. Well, I don't know if that's true or not, but I'm sure he'll fill us in. Max, what's going on with engineering?
Awesome. Actually, before I give the engineering update, I just wanted to throw it over to John Greenwood real quick, because I think he has some points updates to give, and I know he has a hard stop. He has to run to another call. So I don't know, John, if you're able to hop on, if you want to give any points updates.
Yeah, John, come on in.
There we go. Thank you so much, Max, for yielding temporarily. All right, guys, good to catch up. It's been a couple of weeks. Was at Permissionless, which, as Phil had highlighted, was really, really cool. Had to do like a mental brain check every time I saw someone, because I'm like, wait, I don't work with them. And then I'm like, oh, well, they're just wearing Hemi stuff. So that was pretty interesting. Cons and for ETHCC was also a great success. Had a lot of great time on the ground there as well. So that's why you have not seen me for the past couple of weeks. To get to the nitty gritty, some points updates. Last time we had spoken, I had said by the end of that week, all LP pools that were significant and mattered would be taken care of. They have been. They've been up for a couple of weeks now. There's a few outliers, like as people make extremely small pools, or their single person pools, or V2 pools, stuff like that are really small, kind of just take them as they come. So if you're one of those people, feel free. You can always make a ticket, but it is something that's being monitored, and I do get to that. It's just something that there's no good way to handle automatically. Otherwise, couple of other scenarios. So for those that took place or that were handling POP during testnet, right, have spent some significant time with Absinthe, had met with them in cons as well. And there appears to have been kind of a database issue on their end, which I've gone over this before, talking to them again this morning, and we're going to be rehashing that completely again. My apologies on this, and there's a reason why. We want to make sure that absolutely everyone is involved. There was a large syndicate, mining syndicate, a node syndicate out of Ukraine that reached out and said, hey, a bunch of our people are missing. They sent some really good data over, was able to kind of investigate things with that and realized that one of two things were the case. Either a bunch of people did not connect the wallet, which was, their POP wallet, which was not really very viable, that the entire group didn't, or nearly the entire group, or B, there was something wrong on the tracking side. So definitely leaning towards B and working with Absinthe to get that squared away. So, I don't want to continue to push that down the road, but we're looking at solutions for that. In the worst case scenario, we would probably be looking at some sort of methodology to allow people to reconnect those once again, just so that, we can get that squared away. So, as of right now, the POP checker still has not been updated simply because we don't want to update things haphazardly. There will be an update that will include all wallets that had signed up on Absinthe that also had a secondary wallet for POP. So that's something that we're still working on, and I will continue to update on that. Just want to make sure that we have full completion on it. Also, Spectra, I've been updating. Some users will be seeing that today and tomorrow. Other users have already been seeing it. It depends on kind of when you got involved with Spectra. So those points I'm doing retroactively, and then they'll kind of go into a live state where every couple of days they'll be updated. So very happy about that. Also, I mentioned this as well before, but to make life easier in the future, as well as to kind of double check all of our numbers, we've brought something in called Subsquid. Subsquid is kind of it's a data layer that is similar to like a Dune meets a actually, there's really no good meeting point, but it's a DA layer that basically allows for us to query states of certain things that we put in place. So for instance, I can say, okay, how many users are in Uni v3 pools on this date, this time, this year, this epoch, whatever. How many in this specific pool, how many dollars were in this pool, how many users per dollar per day, for example, for our points program. What this allows for is us to kind of much more easily double check these numbers, and this is something that Absinthe is working with us on. That's almost done on the integration side, and Absinthe has already started working on adapters for those. So looking at that as a good methodology to not only catch any outliers, but also to double check all of our data. So for anything that doesn't have like a 1-to-1 or, within 0.0001 or something like that error ratio, when we do that check, I'll personally go back and recheck everything within that line to ensure that, nothing's being left out in the cold here. So that's been kind of the greatest solution here for users that have any types of gaps within points. Just want to make sure that everyone's getting awarded what they should, and this will ensure that that takes place. This also makes sure that in future iterations and future seasons, regardless of what they look like, for anything that's on-chain related, this will allow for the users to get not only like an instantaneous reward count. So, if you deposit right now and we allow it, in theory, you would see, 0.000001 points being awarded, by the second, let's say, right? Which is, kind of great for the user for the adrenaline hit. Also, it allows us to scale much, much quicker. So, on our end and on the points integration side, it should be much smoother moving forward. So these are all very good things. Very happy about it. If there is any outliers that I'm, haven't talked about here, feel free to reach out. I know that there was some tickets that closed while I was gone. Have gone back to a few people and DM them as well. So please check DMs if you had a ticket that closed. But if not, feel free to reopen. With these tools in place, though, I'm very confident that all of the kind of scenarios that we were seeing will be taken care of in a timely manner. So As always, guys, I appreciate your time. I do have to hop very soon, but I'll hang on for a couple more minutes just for any follow-up.
Yeah, I
Thank
do
you.
have a couple questions for you from the community, John. I know you're pressed for time, so we'll just jump right in here. For Demos, when will Epoch 2 end?
Yeah, so I know that initially I had said, okay, right before I left for, actually, I think it was during permissionless, and said, yeah, it would be probably about that week. As timelines shift internally and as things kind of allow for more time, trying to give that as much time as humanly possible. So I will say what I've always said, you'll know when it's going to close and there will be ample time. So at least 72 hours or more before close, probably the Monday of the week of. So if it closes on a Friday, you will know on that Monday. So that's the most I can say. I just really want to give as much time and some internal dynamics, specifically the subsquid integration has allowed for me to run that a little bit longer. There is people that are still signing up by the day, some that have not verified previously, and then also the outlier group of people that did not see their pop stats, like some of the users from that syndicate, etc. Those users did not verify because they did not see anything, so have communicated that they should verify. Therefore, this is giving them more time. So once again, the answer, when we have a hard date, you will know as soon as humanly possible.
Next one is kind of a multiple part question. I'll ask all of it together, and you can ask me if you want any repeats. Are users required to have verified within both of the Deimos verifications? And will there be any effect to rewards for those who missed a verification period? And for new users, is there a way to verify again to claim the full reward?
Yeah, so a couple things. So think about this over a period of time, right? Like if a user comes on today, then they wouldn't have needed to complete verification 1. Active addresses during verification 1 period needed to verify, right? Active addresses during verification 2 need to verify. New users that come in during or after verification, that they would verify based upon whether it was open or not. And, there is tolerance there for kind of, when they came in and everything else. With that being said, we haven't totally nailed it down internally yet. Me and Max actually talked about this just a few days ago briefly, but in theory, if you were to receive 100% of points for both verifications and you missed one and you were most certainly active during that time and you had weeks to do so, then there would be some sort of slash for that. It's not going to be massive. The thought process is that if you were active, and since primarily on mainnet, it's economics, we're not as worried about it. I think completing it once is pretty much the requirement, across the board, to make sure that you're getting what you want to get out of this, for lack of a better term. Doing it multiple times, though, is really the requirement so that we can ensure that the users that are real and that are performing proper economics are the ones that are receiving, the outcome. So, as always, you need to do as many as possible for the time that you've been on chain. And for those that have missed or something else, make sure that you do the current one and, anything else that comes up in the future. There will not be anything else that comes up in the future for this current epoch, but, I would just say to be as active as possible with that. But someone would, should not, assuming that all other things align, that, a user is not malicious in any other way. If a user was here for the past 30 days, 60, 90, 120, since the beginning, whatever, and never performed a verification, for example, they will still get point weight. It's just, what that ratio is really determines on a couple of things that we have not decided on internally. So, obviously those acting in bad faith that have not completed them or have tried to game the system, which there's quite a few of, that on the other hand will be handled as such. So.
All right, last set of questions for you from the chat. Vactol asks when the mainnet snapshots will take place, and then when will the Deimos verification period end?
Yeah, so we just answered the Deimos verification one. That as soon as I have like a hard date that I have to close it off on, I will. Before without Subsquid, I needed a couple of weeks to make sure that this closes out and can double check data. With this, it makes it much simpler, so I have more time to give you guys. As far as the first question, we don't have snapshots. Snapshots are by the second. So with all data, it's read off chain in real time, and then it's thrown into a database. Users don't necessarily see in real time. It depends on the platform and everything else. But as far as like an actual snapshot, like traditional, points programs go, we don't do that. And there's a couple of reasons why. I've been part of them before, where there's actually a very, very big one that I participated in early this year. Like 40K in capital and LP, and then literally removed it for a better opportunity. 4 days later, they snapshotted, right? So, that type of activity, it usually hurts the user. Ours is ongoing, so that, if you decided to split the week, and go on, I don't know, Plume Network and farm that, or deposit there for 3 out of 4 days, and then you're on Hemi the rest, like, okay, great. You're going to get that point per dollar per day average for the days that you were deposited, which is what the basis of all of these are, before multipliers, before, other incentives. So with that being said, there is no true snapshot in that regard. As far as when the cutoff will be, that will be determined as well. I think, we'll have an update with that. I'd like to say maybe early next week, have a good idea as far as, okay, guys, this is when Deimos is cutting off, and this is when the end is, which those should be about the same, both of those things. As far as the end of this epoch and the end of Deimos should be about the same time. So you will hear much more about that very soon.
John, thank you for coming up. We know you're pressed for time. You can go on to your business. We have some questions for Phil. Phil, I know you have to jump at the bottom of the hour, so we'll just jump right here. Can you elaborate, Phil, on what scaling Bitcoin beyond money means?
Yeah, sure. That's a really good question, and I love it when people ask it, because it shows that they're curious about what we're up to. When we say scaling Bitcoin about beyond money, what we're talking about is we're redefining this notion of scaling, right? I mean, so much of the level 2 conversation, whether you're on Bitcoin or Ethereum or what have you, has started and stopped at cheaper, faster transactions, right? And fine. I mean, if that's what you're satisfied with, then great. We're looking at it very differently, in that we are delivering through the HVM and our unique ability to access Bitcoin itself without abstraction or wrapping. We are allowing people to do more with Bitcoin than just have it be that method of exchange and store of value that we all know and love, right? We're enabling really, truly, effective Bitcoin DeFi, and we're providing a level of access to Bitcoin that broadens what is possible with Bitcoin. And so that could extend, that even allows us to talk about, for example, how we might extend something like POP into level 3 networks and that sort of thing. So there's the faster, cheaper transaction piece, which is, again, fine. And if that's where people begin and end, we have an incredibly good solution for them. If people want to do something more aggressive and robust, like Bitcoin DeFi, real Bitcoin DeFi, we do that better than anybody else. And then finally, if we're looking into the future, I mean, by wrapping an EVM around a Bitcoin node, that is to say the HVM, we open up the creative doors for people to do more with the Bitcoin network. And so that's what we mean by scaling Bitcoin beyond money, is that our vision well extends beyond faster, cheaper.
That's all-encompassing right there. Now, what's your strategy for bringing mindshare to the Hemi ecosystem?
That's a good question. I mean, you're seeing it play out now, right? So as a marketer, as a communicator, I want to try to guarantee as much as one can in such an uncertain world. I try to guarantee four things, right? Certainty, control, credibility, and community. The four C's, as I've always called it, right? How do I get to certainty? Well, you do that through paid media. And so you saw a little of that at Permissionless, right? We paid a sponsorship fee and we were everywhere. We do co-marketing events at key conferences with folks like OneDelta. We also do some paid research. We had a sponsorship with Bankless, the media outlet. So a number of you caught that. So that allows us to have some certainty, that first C, in terms of how and where our message is penetrating into what audience, right? Now, when we talk about control, that takes the form of owned content, the content that we produce. So you see that on our blog. You see that on our YouTube channel. You see that in the Satoshi Stories documentary. You see it in the replays that we have of this event here. So we're really, really dedicated to making sure that we're producing content that people would want to consume, and B, really shows what we're all about and what we're doing. So that's the second C. The third C is credibility, right? And how do you get to that point? Well, you do that through earning your way in, right? So what does that take the form of? That takes the form of, say, media relations, right? So you heard me talk about 2 podcast placements. One has happened and one is imminent. And that's one of those things where you talk to the people, the shows that you want to be on, the websites that you want to be on, and you say, this is what we do and this is why we do it better than anybody else. Great. That opens doors. But it also takes the form of speaking platforms as well. So we got Jeff on stage. A lot of people don't know how pay-to-play conferences are, but the fact that we were able to earn our way on stage says something about what we're doing. And then that's the third C, credibility. And then the fourth C is what we're all experiencing right here. That is to say, community. We're up to 263,000 people on our Twitter, or the artist formerly known as Twitter. We've got 6 figures worth of people here on this Discord. We have people coming to this AMA every day, and so that is an incredibly important piece, especially in crypto. So what we're always thinking about day after day, week after week, month after month is, are we pulling the levers of those 4 C's? Are we pulling those to our best advantage? And so, without giving away too much of the secret sauce, those are the components, the key components of our strategy and what those objectives are.
Wonderful responses, Phil. Thank you for that insight.
I should think about communications as a career, huh?
Yeah, it might be something that you would look into. But you did miss the most important C. It's the C of Cortez. No, I'm just joking. Max, let's move back to you. We've got engineering updates, and I'm dying to know what's been going on with Hemi's engineering side. Please take it away.
All right, awesome. Back to our regularly scheduled programming. A couple exciting things. So we did the Pectra upgrade on mainnet last week, last Thursday, I believe at 11 a.m. Eastern. So that went live without a hitch. All of our partners who are running nodes were able to complete the update successfully. There are a few community members running nodes who ran into a couple different problems. So we will be following up on any of those issues. If anyone's still having issues there, we'll be following up on those shortly. But Pectra upgrade went through successfully. Beyond that, we are getting the final PR merged in very, very soon for the new daemon refactor, and we'll be updating documentation and how to run it. Basically, if you're particularly if you're a pop miner, some things are going to change. The pop miner is now more flexible. It's easier to run different components of the stack in isolation. And so we'll be circulating updated instructions and information on all that very, very soon as well. And beyond that, we're still putting the final finishing touches on the HBit VM white paper. So hoping to get that out soon. We're doing an internal engineering review of the final content and getting one last section in there. So a lot of exciting stuff there, and really excited to get that out into the public, get people discussing it. We'll also be publishing some more simplified content around it for people who want to understand the macro without reading through a dense white paper. So some blog posts, that sort of content to better explain our approach, how it differentiates from what other people are doing, and also, perhaps more importantly, how what we're doing can be sort of a public good and benefit other projects in the Bitcoin L2 ecosystem, and that potentially lends itself to better cross-chain interoperability in the Bitcoin L2 ecosystem as well. So looking forward to getting that published. And then, I think those are the major things. We've been just doing some additional testing and checks post-Spectra. Everything's looking good there. Doing some infrastructure improvements. And I believe that pretty much wraps it up for the engineering update. We will be getting the Hemi hatchlings minted probably by end of day. I'm sorry for the delay on that. Just other things with the Pectra upgrade took priority. But I did post the official snapshot that we took, the CSV files in general chat. If anyone wants to check those, see your address. You can see your address for each of the different types of Hemi hatchlings, how many of those your address gets, and then what the actual issue numbers or IDs of those from testnet that you owned as of the snapshot date. We will also be, in the relatively near future, updating our testnet from Bitcoin testnet 3 to Bitcoin testnet 4. So don't have an ETA on that because there are other priorities on the mainnet side. But that's there's some work in progress there in a PR for testnet 4 support in the network stack, and we've got to make some modifications on the opnode opget side to be able to activate a clean HVM network transition. So working on that. And I think those are the major things. So with that, I'll turn it over to Jeremy and we'll start going through questions.
I do have a couple questions that were asked in the chat. I'll go ahead and ask them now. And if we can get answers for you guys, we'll see. If we can't, don't worry. Someone will be able to answer you. This one's from David Wellsberg. He said he had a question, opened a ticket, wants to know if he needs to fill out, if he will have time to fill out the guild form because he needs the special role now.
That I do not have insight into.
I believe, David, that you should have time to fill out the form to get your special role. If not, I'm sure one of the moderators will be happy to take it to DMs or something like that, or a private conversation with you so that we can sort that out. No worries. And then I have another one. Can we confirm that there will be 3 phases in the pilot program as announced in the documentation? Has this not changed?
I believe the plan is still 3 phases for the pilot program. There may be additional ones added in the future. Maybe we can have Rick do a special breakout on the engineering AMA tomorrow to address any of those open questions because that's his area of expertise. But I believe, still 3 different levels to the pilot program and possibly more in the future. But at the moment, I believe it's still 3.
All right. And then I see Alex has a question. He says, at 3 p.m. UTC, the Tour de France is coming to an end. He wants to know if it'd be possible to delay the midweek with Max by an hour to fulfill his religious obligations.
You're saying Tour de France is more important than talking about tech details of an L2?
Couldn't be. There's no way, right? All right, let's move on to some general questions here. When will tokenomics information be released?
Hopefully very soon. I know we've been saying that for a while. We are still getting a few items nailed down in there. As a positive update, since things are taking a bit longer, especially for people who've been waiting since the beginning of testnet, we have increased the still non-finalized but working internal allocation of tokenomics to the different both testnet and mainnet season 1. And so the delay does not come without additional awards to sweeten the pile and make sure everyone gets taken care of for everything they contributed to the project and all the time that they've been waiting for, especially people from testnet for all their testnet activity. But we are still finalizing some things. A part of, without going into specifics, which hopefully we can share more of that soon, but some of the programs and things that we're lining up as part of the ramp to TGE, those require carve-outs of tokenomics for various different things, and so that all has to flow up into the master tokenomics, and those things keep shifting. So we should hopefully be getting a finalized version of tokenomics out soon. I don't have a exact ETA on that because we have added some new things to that ramp schedule towards TGE, but we are collapsing a lot of those waves, and we are getting close to finality, but still some moving pieces, but we will get that out as soon as possible.
Just to clarify on what I said earlier, I did not mean to say DM. We will never DM you. That is a security risk. David Wellsberg, you should look towards that ticket that you opened up for that mod communication. That's where you can expect it. We will not DM you. Next question. When TGE, if you didn't already say soon?
I couldn't guess that one's coming. We are, same with tokenomics, we're still working on finalizing a date. We have things keep shifting, and again, like I said, we're adding more things that should lead to more successful TGE, and so those things just take time to collapse, schedule out, work backwards from, make sure we have, the marketing side has appropriate time to do their job around all those activations, and also some minor things on the tech side that we need to get done for just general usability, token staking, things of that nature. So more details there coming soon. We are still finalizing a date, but we should hopefully be able to announce that in the very near future.
Now we can move forward to the engineering questions. I think you already mentioned this, but it should be sometime today that Hemi hatchlings will be moved to mainnet via the minting process. Is that correct?
Yep, that is the goal. And like I said, for anyone who missed it, I did post the actual snapshot of all the Hemi hatchlings as of last Wednesday at, I think it was 11 a.m. when we took the snapshot. So if you want to go there and check your address for each of the 4 different elemental Hemi hatchlings, you can see how many you're getting of each of those, and then also which specific issuance or ID of those, if that matters to you as well. So that should be getting done by end of day. But yeah, if you want to check to make sure that you're going to get the right allocation, you can go check that message that I posted in general.
Now, of late, there's been quite a bit of work on the BFG and pop miner. How will these changes affect pop mining going forward?
The main thing is making it easier to run, and also giving you, for people who want to do custom stuff with their pop miner, more raw stuff to work with. And so what we did is, at a super high level, the pop miner now can talk to various different interfaces of ways to get Bitcoin data. So you can run TBC, which is the same tiny Bitcoin node that's embedded in the EVM to make HVM. You can also run that separately as a Bitcoin indexer and point the pop miner to that. And we're also did some refactoring on how you get keystones, sort of collapsing all of these different RPC endpoints floating around into a more contained set of RPC endpoints that are easier to work with. So we'll publish some detailed information on that as we get all this final stuff merged in. But a lot of it affects, pop miner simplifies running it, gives people doing custom stuff more stuff to work with. And then on the BFG side, also making that easier to run independently for people who want to run their own, say, Bitcoin finality governor and look at Bitcoin finality statistics without running tons of other components of the stack. So we'll give detailed tech instructions with the updated README once we get this stuff merged in, and updates on the docs, but that's the high level.
All right, greater usability is great for everybody. How much Bitcoin have pop miners spent on mainnet so far? I think this was a question we had last week that you were going to look into.
Yep, I did actually run those statistics. So we've had 913 active pop miners, unique EOAs that did a pop transaction on mainnet. They've done a total of 323,770 pop transactions. This is as of like last night at 10 p.m. So slightly old data, but and then the total pop fees they paid are approximately 1.71 Bitcoin.
We
and
do have
also,
a couple more.
Interesting. we had there was one Bitcoin mainnet block that had 853 pop transactions in it. So I did not dive deeper into more statistics there, but I want to later when I have some time. But that's interesting. A lot of Bitcoin block consumption in that edge case.
I want to go back to the Hemi hatchlings for a second. We got a couple more questions about those. What will be the difference between the 4 types of Hemi hatchlings?
Right now, it's purely cosmetic. So one thing that differentiates, so the fire, earth, and water hatchlings, those were more exclusive sets. There are only 333 of each of them. And then air hatchlings, I believe there's, what was the number on that? I want to say like 1,700 or so of those. Let me grab the... contract there, but yeah, there's a lot more of the air Hemi hatchlings than the other 3 elementals, and they were distributed differently. People got random ones in the original capsule coin from testnet, and then there was some exclusive minting that people could do through the Hemi hatchling site. So as far as what they'll be used for, we are working on some interesting ideas for things to do with all the NFTs, Hemi hatchlings, Gabriel Sapoli NFT, maybe some of the third-party partner NFTs that have been minted as well. And so no details to share there yet, but we are working on some cool stuff to do with them. But for now, they are mostly cosmetic and proving you were part of Hemi very early on in the OG testnet days.
All right. Well, thank you for that update. Moving it back to the pop mining, when will the new pop miner payout algorithm be implemented?
Soon, with all the stuff around Pectra that did get delayed a bit, but I would expect that to be activated before the end of next week. We'll, of course, share information on the updated economics of it a couple days at least prior to activating it so people can understand it, update their pop mining strategy if they want to based on the new information. But expect that by end of next week.
One community member observes that, from what they understand, Hemi's tech is extremely difficult to build out. Are you confident in your team's abilities to continue building this technology to full execution?
Absolutely. You are right. It is very complicated. We're combining 2 very, very different networks together and making them talk to each other, building abstraction layers with things like Hemi Bitcoin Kit that make it easier for people to, in an EVM context, build things that talk to or interact with Bitcoin natively. And so there's definitely a lot of complexity, and we have a lot of additional future scope that gets very complex. We're doing stuff with adapting Ethereum proof of stake to work on an L2. We're working on a modified version of BitVM. Again, more details on that with the white paper soon. There's tons of complexity in getting that working, tested, audited, and there's some cool stuff that we're doing there with basically being able to play Bitcoin and Ethereum consensus off each other to keep each other in check in a really interesting way that solves the superblock like-line emulation problem. So definitely tons of complexity, but we have the right team to do it. A lot of our core engineers, protocol engineers have been in the space for over a decade. Many of them ran their own projects in the past. And then on the Ethereum side, we have people who have been writing smart contracts for 7, 8, 9, possibly 10 years. Very familiar with Ethereum, very familiar with EVM and the modifications we're making to the EVM. And they have the context of the Bitcoin side as well. So definitely have the right team to pull it off, but you are right. It is a very complex technical challenge with what we've already built and all of the future scope.
This next question is actually about AI. Has AI helped to accelerate Hemi's development?
We have used it for some things. The problem with AI for development is that it's very easy to get lulled into a false sense of security on something that you don't fully understand. Like when you write code, you understand what it does through and through. When AI gives you code, even if it seems to work, unless you're really taking the time to pick it apart, make sure you really understand it, there are some risks there. Also, one of the things is you'll see tech demos, and don't get me wrong, there's a lot of cool AI coding stuff you can do. There's a lot of people who are greatly benefiting from AI to bang out all kinds of different projects very, very quickly. But when you're talking about a project like Hemi, the code base is huge. And AI, one of the limitations of AI is it has a hard time analyzing lots of data and really understanding the structure of a large project. And I'm by no means an AI expert, but just from my observations, talking internally, talking to other devs who are using it or trying to use it. And so, when you have a code base that's hundreds of thousands of lines of code amongst, hundreds or even thousands of different files, getting AI to really conceptualize that and understand it is difficult. And also, a lot of the code especially a lot of the code inherited from Optimism and the Ethereum ecosystem with, Geth, there's a lot of complexity to how things work that are not obvious with, just looking at the code. Like some code is written in a way where, you can look at a function and then, okay, look at everything that calls this function, look at everything that calls those things that call that function, and you can get a really good idea very quickly of what code paths could possibly cause that code to be run, and what the context of that would be. Whereas with a lot of the Optimism and Ethereum code, there's a lot of additional complexity with, event systems, notifications, different layers of abstraction that are not obvious just looking at the code. And so you really have to understand the code base deeply to be able to work with it. And it's really hard to get AI to get that understanding of the code, if you will. So we have used it for a couple things, mainly things that are non-mission critical, some demo apps, some UI work. But again, especially on the protocol engineering side, AI can be dangerous, and it's also, with a project like this, really hard to get AI to understand holistically what you're doing with all these different components, how they interact with each other, how these complex code paths that aren't obvious from just inspecting the code actually work. And so AI, that's kind of where, at least nowadays, AI really breaks down from a development perspective.
All right. We have a question about releasing GitHub releases. Can Hemi move to using a GitHub release methodology of tagged finalized releases, main, as opposed to continuous development within the main branch? They say ideally this would be done with clear release notes, including fixes and breaking changes within the release. Any lack of that makes it extremely difficult for node operators to maintain their nodes.
We will definitely be moving to a more formalized release schedule. So a lot of the, in the early days, we're basically the only ones running nodes. We're running all the infrastructure. We're moving fast, getting features in the sprint to mainnet, or after mainnet, sprint to add some features and get to the Vector upgrade. But yeah, going forward, now that more people are running nodes, we will definitely be following a more formalized release schedule, tagging things, having release notes, or breaking changes. I will also add, related but not directly covered by that question, but we do also have a node operators channel that we just started on Discord, where anytime in the future we do breaking changes to any of the components of running the Hemi stack, we'll be posting there with information for what the changes are, how to upgrade, when you need to upgrade by. So all of that information is in one centralized place rather than floating around in conversations. I mentioned on a midweek with Max, thing to some people who are running nodes on Telegram. So we are centralizing that node update communication as well into one channel. We may do a Telegram channel in the future, but for now, one channel on Discord where all that information will be posted.
Do we have any updates for node license holders?
No updates, same as before. So the node license market just does not make sense right now to engage with further. So at the moment, there are no plans for any future node sales, at least publicly. If you already bought a node, you will get taken care of either with equivalent economics or better, whether that be actually getting the node license itself as originally planned, or getting the economic equivalent of that node license in some way without having to run the node. So still collapsing the wave on which of those two directions we're going to go. But if you did buy a node license in the early pre-sale, you will be taken care of. But we are not looking to reopen the node sale at this time.
All right. And I think that wraps all the questions that we had. We do have a special announcement, by the way. If you tune in tomorrow during our engineering AMA, if your participation is great in that, we'll be giving about 5,000 Discord XP for everyone who asks a good engineering related question for tomorrow's engineering AMA. So be sure to send us your questions, and we're going to tack an additional 100 PX on per question after the first one. So send your questions in. We have engineers that are champing at the bit to answer them for you. And we're really looking forward to having Rick come back to host the AMA tomorrow. So make sure you guys send Rick all your love.
All right, awesome. Looking forward to seeing everyone on the engineering AMA tomorrow and doing some interesting deep dives into some of Hemi's current tech or future plans for all the new features that we're going to be adding as part of our roadmap. So definitely looking forward to that. We're going to have a lot of the protocol engineering team on. People have also asked if we're going to do an engineering AMA with the apps team, people building a lot of the UI components and some of the other pieces in the Hemi ecosystem. And that is something we do want to do at some point. We haven't scheduled yet, but that is something that is definitely something we want to do, and we're exploring what that would look like.
So we've had a pretty full session today. I want to thank everyone in the community for coming by and attending this wonderful broadcast here. And, while I'm filling in for Rick, I have some pretty big boots to fill. I want to thank the Discord mods for putting up with you guys and, and putting up with me and making sure that we have a wonderful Discord community that is moderated. I'll hand it back over to you, Max, if you have any closing thoughts here that you'd like to part with today.
Awesome. Yeah, appreciate everyone showing up. We will stay tuned for a lot of exciting announcements this month. There's a lot of stuff that's coming to closure very, very soon. So stay tuned for some exciting announcements. And looking forward to seeing everyone tomorrow. And Hemi strong.
Hemi strong.
Oh, and karaoke will resume next week with Rick.
Yes, next week you can sing your hearts out.
All right, awesome.
And until
thanks
then,
everyone, and we will
thanks
see you
so much.
tomorrow.
Take care, everybody.